Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone's had a good last couple weeks. Um, just want to give everybody a heads up for the algebra fundamentals students, guys. What I did into the PowerSchool ClassLite is added a tab for in case you missed it. And in that tab, you're going to see some information that I'm just saying to you now. I'm doing two parts of this video, trying to keep them short. So the first part of this video is just going over some things that you missed. The second part of the video was I want to go over a quick little review of the naming of the parts of the algebraic expression assignment. Since some of you guys don't have the assignment in color, it's black and white, so I just want to go over, because there was a couple questions this week around it, so I just want to go over that. Those of you guys that missed the class, I'm going to go over how you would do that assignment and real quickly. Again, if you haven't been on, a few things, updates. One, the in case you missed it tab is there. You can go on that. You'll see the YouTube. This is going to be a YouTube video along with the other part of the video, which will be me showing kind of the name of the parts of the algebraic expression. You also want to go on day one and then the interpreting algebraic expressions tabs. Click that, and you want to go on classes 2 and 3, day 2, class 1, and then classes 2, 3, and 4. And the assignments are going to be in there for what you need to do. So you want to make sure you have the algebraic vocabulary. You want to make sure you do the hen house do now. You want to make sure you do the managing restaurant 2 assignment, not managing restaurant. There's 2 of them there. Managing restaurant 2 assignment, what you want to do. You also want to make sure that you do the practice activities, the 3.1, 3.1, 3.2 from IXL. You can screenshot or Google Doc your assignment. So the IXL stuff, screenshot it to me when you finished. Any other assignments, if you need access, I can have you give you access to edit it, and then you can put it on a Google Doc and send it to me so I can make corrections, give you feedback. And that's pretty much what we've been doing the last couple weeks. In the first day of class, really, it was just about tech issues, going through what is algebra fundamentals, remote learning. The syllabus is in the day 1 tab if you click on it, and all the information from the first day. So I hope you guys had a good first couple weeks. Hope to see you next week. And the next part of the video is going to come up after this. That's going to have kind of me going through the naming parts of an algebraic expression using algebra tiles, since we don't really have them. But you'll have to draw them out, and I'll kind of show you what each size, square, rectangle represents, 1, X, or Y. All right. So have a good week. Next part of this is going to be the naming the parts of the algebraic expression. Go on to the class site, and you can email me or text me if you have any questions. All right, guys. Have a good weekend. Stay well. Stay safe. And I'll see you next week. Hey, guys. Good afternoon. This is part 2 of the video now. The first part was when I was talking earlier about the tabs and the PowerSchool Learning site. Now, the next part is going to be something I'm going to try to do at least once a week, maybe a couple times a week. And these YouTube videos will be under the in case you missed it tab. Okay, that's where all the YouTube videos that I'm making are going to go. That way, you wouldn't have to see it if you were in class. So that's where you're going to find these, in case you missed it. Okay. One of the assignments we did this week that I just want to go over a few things as you're doing it in case you get stuck. If you're working on it, if you're logging into the PowerSchool class for the first time, and you need to do the assignment, is just go over what some of the things mean. Since we don't have algebra tiles, I'm going to use this whiteboard. I'm kneeling. I missed my class board already where I can stand up. But I'm going to use what I have here to show you a little bit. So I'm going to go through some vocabulary and go over what the algebra tiles look like if you had them at school. We had them here, right? So this first small square, it's a small square. And it's supposed to be green if we had algebra tiles, but it's green. So this represents 1. Okay, that represents just 1. The value, 1 value. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. The medium-sized rectangle represents X. So all of those inside of this tile chart represent X. So this is 1 and this is 2. X, X, X. Okay. The larger rectangle represents Y. Okay. So now, when you do the assignment, it's going to ask you some things about terms, coefficients, and how do I know I can see in the visually, and how do I know I can see algebraically? So how do I know I have 2? How can I tell from the board, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put up what this looks like, the visual, algebraically as an expression. So I have 2 squares, kind of like I showed you earlier. So I have 2. That's our constant, right? And I'm going to talk about that in a second. Then I have 1, 2, 3 x's, the medium-sized rectangles. So I have 3x. And then I have 1, 2, 3 y's. So that's what it looked like. That's what it looks like algebraically. 2 plus 3x plus 3y. Okay? All right. So now, here's our algebraic expression. How do I know I have a constant on the board and algebraically, right? Or numerically, right? So I can see that this 2 is my constant because doesn't have a variable that can be used as a placeholder to change the 2 to something else. It's just going to be 2. And here I have 3x. How do I know I have 3x in the expression? Because it's showing us in the expression algebraically that I have 3x. That's how I can see it in the expression. And that how I know 3y? Well, we have 3y in the expression. Now, how can I tell what I have on the table? Well, the medium-sized rectangles, which would be yellow, represent 1, 2, 3. So I have 3 x's. So in the table, those 3 represent my x's, and they would be yellow if we had the paper, right? And in your paper, it's going to be black and white. The y's are the biggest rectangle. And how do I know I have 3 y's on the table? Because each one of these larger rectangles represents a y. Each one of the medium rectangles represents an x, and each square represents 1, a value of 1. So that's how I can tell I can have it on the board. So now we have our constant. So there's going to be another thing it's going to ask you as you do this assignment is, what about the coefficient? So it's going to ask you, and I'll try to make it neat, the coefficient of x in this case. So what it's asking is, what is the number that's next to x? In our problem, the number next to x is 3. Okay? So now, what about the coefficient of y? Well, the number next to y is 3. So now how can I tell I have the 3x on the table? Well, I know that each of the medium rectangles represent x, and there's 3 of them. So there's our 3x. The larger rectangles, which each represent y, there's 3 of those, which means that I have 3y. So at the end of it, we have our constant, which is 2. We have 3x and 3y algebraically. There's our algebraic expression. Visually, we have 1, 2 squares, which each represent 1. So we have 2 of those. We have 3 medium-sized rectangles, which they represent x, and they would be yellow, so that would be 3x. The 3 larger rectangles, which would be orange if we had tiles, but we have black and white, but they're larger. Those are 3 of those, which each represent y, which gives us 3y. All right? So when you're doing the assignment, when it asks you about the coefficient, that's the number next to the variable that they're asking you about. So in this case, x, the number next to the number is 3, and we have 3 of those medium squares. The coefficient of y is 3. On the board, we have 3 larger rectangles, each representing y, which gives us the 3y. Okay? And as far as the term goes, how many terms do we have? Well, we have 3 different size. We have a square, a medium rectangle, and a larger rectangle, which each represents a term. As you start adding things in algebraically with expressions and taking things away, these are terms. If we took something away from here, we'd only have 2 terms. If we added something to the board, we'd have another term. So each representation inside of an expression is a term, whether it's a whole number or a whole number with a variable, or it could also have an exponent, which we'll talk about another time, could also be a term. All right. I hope this helps. When you're doing the naming of algebraic expression assignment, I'm gonna try to post one of these each week with an assignment that we're doing, maybe 2 depending upon what we're doing if people have questions. This will again be in the Case You Missed It tab, the YouTube video. I hope it helps. Hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend. See you next week. Stay healthy, stay safe, and I'll see you next week.